pals, and there's also therapy too.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Park Pals. Thank you so much for joining me. I have an amazing guest today. We are talking to Mary Faber, aka Kathryn Pinewood. She was so nice. It took us a while to schedule this, so I just have to express my sincere gratitude for her kind of making sure that we got on the same schedule and that she, because, you know, I feel like after a couple, like even with friends, it's like after a couple of tries, you're like, okay, we're just not going to do this, right? And I'm so glad that that was not the case for this. She's awesome. We talk about how she is a professional Broadway musical theater actress. She also does a lot of voiceover. The first half of the show is talking about parks and like how she was a fan and, you know, what it was like playing the nemesis of Leslie, essentially. And then I personally, you guys might wish that I kept talking about parks, but I loved hearing and wanted to hear more about what it's like to balance TV film versus Broadway versus voiceover, and then how she got her start and, like, you know, cattle call auditions and auditions in general and kind of process for musical theater versus film TV and, like, you know, just all that kind of stuff. So I thought it was really interesting, and she was super chill, super relaxed, and yeah, it's been a while since we've done an interview with a guest star, so I'll just get right to it. I hope that you have a wonderful day, and then, yeah, we'll see you for the next episode, and we're getting right through season 5. Okay, talk to you soon, and please let me know if you have any questions for the lovely Mary Faber who plays Kathryn Pinewood. I'm sure that there are more questions that I just didn't get to. You can follow her on Instagrams at Mary B. Faber. I will tag her, and then you can follow us also at Park Pals Podcast for both TikTok, Instagram. You can email us, whatever. Anyways, okay, well, thanks so much. Also, Maddie is not here today. As you could probably tell, she has some wild work situations going on that I hope that, you know, things are going less stressful than they need to be. So, yeah, we wish her luck as well. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay, please enjoy Mary Faber.
There's a park and some pals, and there's also therapy too.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it so much. I'm glad that we finally made it work out.
I know, my pleasure. I'm glad we made it work out too.
So you were just in, was it Texas? No, where were you doing a show?
I was in Texas, yeah. I was doing, in Houston, I was doing a musical at this new theater called Houston Broadway Theater. And we were doing, I don't know if you are a musical theater fan, but we were doing Next to Normal.
Yes, I am a musical theater person for sure. So
awesome.
I definitely know what that is.
Yeah, it was great. It was, I have a long history with that show. I did the workshops like decades ago.
Like the original?
Mm-hmm. Like the original when it was still called Feeling Electric. And I played the daughter, the teenage daughter. And then I have since aged into the mother, Diana. But it was so much fun. It was a big challenge, but I loved it.
How did you get that role or hear about it? If it's a new theater, were you working with some people beforehand?
Yeah, I knew the director.
Oh, okay.
So he and I had worked together before in New York. So.
Oh my God. What do you mean by challenge? What was the challenging part of it? I mean, theater in general is just challenging.
Theater in general is just challenging. I would say that role in particular, because she, you know, I don't want to give anything away, but she struggles a lot with mental health issues. And so it's, from an acting standpoint, a huge challenge. And then from just a physical and vocal standpoint, you know, she sings in almost every number, you know, and it's like a rock musical. So it was intense, it's heavy, but it was, I mean, it's one of the best roles I think out there for women in contemporary musical theater. So.
Oh my God, that's so great. How long did you run?
Oh, it was only five shows.
What?
It was so short. I could have, by the time I kind of even started to have a sense of what the show was, I was like, and we're closed. Okay.
And we're done.
And we're done.
Did you rehearse for a short amount of time? Is that
we rehearsed for 3 weeks, and we teched and we opened and we closed in the same week. So
oh my
it was
That
intense.
is wild.
Yeah.
Well, maybe with the new, since it's newer, I mean, maybe they'll like think about the structure and how they want to do it. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think this particular production was like intended to be a kind of proof of concept for
Yeah.
the Houston area, so it was never really
Sure.
intended to be like a long run or anything like that. So, I knew what it was going to be going in, and I was like, even if it's 5 performances, I'm in. I'm down.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, that's so exciting. I know how rewarding it is, but how exhausting theater is just in general.
Can be, yeah.
Yes, I'm a musical theater person too. I have a lot of questions for you. So
Ooh,
we'll get into
awesome.
that
Okay.
after.
I love it.
But we always talk about on the show, especially with guest stars, now that we're getting into kind of the middle of the run of the whole show, which is wild. I always ask, first of all, how your audition was, how you got your job, if it was an audition, if you remember the sides, but also if you were familiar with the show, if you kind of knew what was going on. And there's no judgment if you didn't, because a lot of people really didn't,
Oh, wow.
It was not as, I guess, popular. Even towards the middle season is where it's starting to get popular, but now, like, where you first show up, I think is like the kind of starting point of when people were like, oh yeah, what is this show, kind of thing, which is really interesting to me.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm such a Amy Poehler fan, and I was in, and I knew of Mike Schur's work, from The Office and all that.
Yeah.
So I was there on episode 1, I was very aware.
Oh my
of
God,
it.
that's so cool.
It's such a huge Amy Poehler fan. And, so yeah. And I also had a friend, my dear friend, Rachel Axler, who's this brilliant comedy writer. She was working on season 1 of that.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it was
yes,
on my
we've
radar.
definitely talked to her.
Oh yeah. Oh cool.
I haven't had an interview with her, but I have reached out to ask like little questions and things like that. She's been very sweet, so it's very nice.
Oh, I was just talking to her before we signed on. So
oh my God. Yeah. So exciting. Oh my God, love that. So how was your audition? Did you was the job, getting the job? Was it just a regular, your agent told you about it and that kind of thing, or?
Yeah, it was just I got the audition from my agent. I had never auditioned for the show before. I had auditioned for this casting director before, but I don't think I'd auditioned for Parks and Rec. And I don't know, it was one of those rare instances as an actor where you get it and you're like, oh, you get the sides and you read it, and I was like, I 100% get this. I know exactly what to do. That doesn't happen often, if at all. So it was just one of those lucky things where I just was like, oh man, I really can see this character, and it's so well written. I've said this on anytime I talk about my experience on Parks and Rec, but like the writing is just so good that as an actor, you don't have to invent anything. You just have to show up and do the work justice, do the dialogue justice. Because it's just so brilliant.
Yeah. Which really takes a lot. I just feel like there's a lot of like guesswork sometimes, especially in auditions, where you're not getting the full episode. You're kind of just getting that little brief moment. And then I know this was a long time ago, but I am curious if you knew kind of what the sides were. If you remember what the sides were, was it just that Pawnee Restaurant Association with the soda tax, like where she puts the?
Oh yeah, it was the soda tax.
Soda on her head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what it was. It was just that scene. But that scene is pretty wordy, so
totally.
There was a lot.
And did you know you were coming back for multiple episodes, or did you think it was just that one?
It was supposed to just be a one-off. In fact, Mike Schur said to me at one of the season wrap parties, he was like, that character really had no business coming back. We had no intentions for her to come back, but because she was just such a fun character, we kept writing for her. So that was a wonderful compliment, and also super, super lucky event for me.
Yeah, totally. I feel like they've said that multiple times. Like, and by they, I just mean any time I hear about Parks and Rec, it's like if they really enjoy what you brought to the character, if they can bring you back, they most definitely will. So many of the Pawnee characters in general, I feel, were only supposed to be there for one episode, and sometimes it started off so differently than how it ended up. But I feel like Kathryn Pinewood's character was just, and my co-host and I talk about this, so like, it was just like you said with the writing, kind of going back to that point, it was so just clear what she was supposed to be immediately. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't a ton of like arc for her.
No.
You know, it was just like, this is what she is. This is kind of the antagonist to Leslie's, you know, do-gooder vibes. And I just thought that was really interesting too, because I feel like the writers always have some sort of almost mirror to Leslie, like with Brandy Max and Kathryn Pinewood and the Sweetums gal. Like they're all blonde and kind of Leslie vibes, but like the opposite, you know?
If Leslie had gone wrong.
Right.
Yeah. No, Kathryn Pinewood, her POV is very clear and unwavering. And that's really fun to play as an actor. So...
Yeah, totally. And I mean, with that first episode with the soda tax, like you said, it was pretty wordy. So I'm curious if you guys, and by wordy, I just mean like longer.
Yeah, it was.
A normal guest star.
It just was, but it was also really well written, so it wasn't too hard to like memorize. You know how sometimes if you get like sides and the writing is just so clunky and it just doesn't stick in your brain for whatever reason. Like I never had.
Yeah, you're like, I would never say it this way. So how do I memorize saying it?
Exactly. Whereas this writing is easy to memorize because it's logical.
Yeah. Did you guys get, and by you guys, I mean, like, did you get a lot of direction from either Amy or the director when you were doing that scene? Do you remember? Or was it more of like, let's just play? Because I'm curious about like your look to camera and kind of how you were playing with her, that kind of thing.
Oh, I was told to do the look to camera. Actually, I think that was in the sides. I think that was written.
Probably.
I think that was written in. But no, Amy, I don't recall Amy directing. She, you know, if she was in the scene with you, like, you know, she was just another actor, very supportive, like so supportive. I'm sure, I know everybody says this about her, but she really set this beautiful tone as the leader of this show and the set and this team. And it was really wonderful. And I remember one of the character actors who was recurring a lot, with Kathryn Pinewood, he was like, because it was one of my first jobs in LA. And he was like, it doesn't get any better than this. So like, don't think that every set is going to be this warm and nice. And he was unfortunately right. But luckily I won't say that I haven't been on bad sets. I just mean like this one was the best.
It's like, yeah. And I've definitely heard that, especially from Mike Schur, type of shows like with The Office or even like mockumentary style in general. Like I feel like I've heard that about Modern Family and stuff too, where there's room to play a little bit as well. Like there's just a playful energy because so many people come from improv and sketch.
Yes.
That, you know, you can kind of just have fun with it, but also get the work done at the same time. Whereas other sets I have heard are more of like, no, we've got to stick to the script. Let's just stick to this, you know.
They always do like a pass.
The fun run.
The fun run, yeah. And like
did you get to do any improvising?
I did a little bit. But like it was just so cool. I'm not sure which episode it was, but it was the one we were doing a scene in the auditorium, you know, like one of those town hall kind of things when all these characters were showing up, and it was what were Harris Whittles and Colton's what were their characters?
They were like the animal control people.
They improvised. They just went on, and it was all so brilliant and so funny, and we were all just like dying. So I got to see these incredible improvisers up close and personal.
I can't imagine. I feel like I'd be so intimidated. I've taken improv classes. I've done like, you know, iOS and all when that was a thing. And I mean, those are just improv like geniuses.
Yeah, I was intimidated. So. I'm not gonna lie, but it wasn't anything that they were doing. It was all my like, you know, actor.
Oh, totally.
Actor head case kind of thing.
No, I totally get it. Well, and speaking of improvisers, like John Glazer is just so good, who played Jam, is just so good at improvising. And I really loved your guys' dynamic of just like, you know, let's just try to take Leslie down.
Yeah.
Did you know him beforehand or did you just meet him?
I just met him then on the set.
Gosh, that's amazing.
And yeah, it was really fun. I was really secretly hoping like they would have some kind of like like ridiculous affair. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, are they setting this up? But no, but it was still really
That would have
fun.
been so funny.
Right?
I think about that a lot with a lot of the characters that could have definitely had some sort of romantical involvement.
Yeah.
Like
There
more
were
scandal,
so
you know what I
many
mean?
characters in that show though, so I'm sure that like there's just a wealth of directions that they could take these storylines
Yeah.
in.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, and just playing with John Glazer, I feel like must have been really fun and just
Brilliant guy.
insane.
Yeah.
Oh my
It was
god.
insane.
I was gonna also ask too, as far as like Kathryn being kind of like we talked about the antagonist, but I just was curious on how it was for you to be playing more of like not a villain necessarily, not that word, but you know what I mean, like the bad guy to Leslie's good guy. I was just curious kind of how that felt to you and if you've done that before or if you like playing those kinds of characters.
I loved it. I mean, I love playing. In my theater career, I definitely, have played quite a few like nice mean girls, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like I don't know if you know the movie Saved with
I don't
oh
think
my
so.
gosh. It was like an indie with starring Mandy Moore about like these like super
Oh.
Christian kids. Anyway,
I think I do remember this now
yeah,
that you're
they turned it
jogging my
into a
memory. Yes.
musical. And anyway, this character of Hilary Faye was very much like a young Kathryn Pine, like smiles and like, but will like cut you. Do you know what I mean?
Like a
the
vicious
nice mean
smile,
girls.
yeah.
And so I love to play those characters. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like the Karens.
That makes
the
total
like
sense.
Stepford wife Karens.
Yeah.
I do tend to get plenty of auditions for those.
Well, when you first like came on, or well, I guess this could be for the audition too, but especially as it started to grow, did you create any sort of like backstory or any kind of wild thing for Kathryn to like anchor her to who she was and what she was doing?
To be honest, not really. Not really. I mean, I definitely was like probably quite obviously like playing that she was attracted to Jam and and based on nothing. And so I guess it wasn't that obvious because nobody gave me a note about it. But
Right.
there were very few actor secrets. It was mostly just showing up and being present,
Yeah.
and rolling with
No,
it.
that makes total sense. And like you said, I mean, I do think it's written in a way where it's not only like informative on who you're supposed to be, but like that type of I guess stereotypical nice mean girl, like you said, is kind of, you can fall into that pretty easily if you know how to smile, but also be cutting at the same time, like you said.
Yeah.
But I was curious too about, okay, so like back into the scenes, I'll just remind you of some because I know, like I said, I know it was a long time ago, but the one where you and Jam are meant to put a paunch burger on the park that Leslie really wants to save for an actual park. And you guys are in the conference room with Ken Hotate, which is like the leader of the Wamapoke people.
Yeah.
And Jam, he tells Jam to put on the Indian or Native American headdress. And it is like so awkward and wild, but so great because of, it's just like this social political commentary almost, and I'm just wondering if you remember that or if you have any sort of memories from when that happened. Like I can imagine me as the person would be like, oh my god, like trying to keep my actor face straight. Like not straight just as like laughing, but straight as like, oh my god, this is so awkward.
No, everybody, especially when Jam, when Glazer would improvise, like everybody was trying to keep it together, because it's just like so awkward, but you just want to die laughing. So when they would say cut, we'd all just bust out laughing.
Oh my god, incredible.
So yeah.
That's wild. Well, and oh my god, I totally forgot. I was watching all of your episodes, Kathryn's episodes, and I totally forgot about the headlock with Rashida Jones.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So as a friendly reminder to the listener, this is when, Rashida Jones's character Anne is leaving and like she's trying to make a deal with the townspeople, you included, to try to get the gates to open or whatever. And I am curious, did you do any sort of like choreography with that to make sure it was all good? I mean, I'm sure it wasn't as like heavy-handed as it seemed, but it kind of did look heavy-handed. I don't know.
Oh no. I mean, I just like No, we really, it's not like I don't even recall if there was like a fight choreographer or anything like that. I think we just like, we're like, hey, how do you want to do this? Okay. Got it. Let's go. It was not, I don't remember it being too deep. So it just,
Yeah.
she's such a pro and so good. Like, I wasn't
Yeah.
worried.
Well, and I mean, I feel like you guys both did really well as far as like making it seem like it was probably harder than it looked. You know, like you were shaking around your head and your bangs were kind of flying around, and I was like, oh my God, this is so wild.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, speaking of your bangs, I feel like in that one in particular, I really love that outfit, and I was curious if you remember, there was like a dress with like a diamond collar looking thing. She looked so regal, and I was really curious about your like if they said anything to you, because I mean, you basically already have the look, I guess, of the hair and whatnot, but I am curious if they like mentioned anything about the wardrobe and the hair and makeup and how that kind of was.
No, I think they didn't mention anything about the wardrobe. I remember, I think I was anxious because well, this is like maybe TMI, but I was actually pregnant with my first, but only just barely. Like, I don't know if you have kids or what, you know, but like, I was so worried that it was going to show, and I was like, you couldn't tell at all, you know, but like, that's what when I think back to that episode, that's the thing that like pops into my mind. It's like, oh my gosh, right. I was like pregnant. Nobody knew. I hadn't told anybody. So it was like, but yeah, no, we didn't talk about the wardrobe or, you know, or anything like that.
Right. They just kind of placed you in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the hair, I assume, was like put up also because like the headlock, if my hair had been down, like you couldn't have seen, it wouldn't have been as funny probably. That would be my guess.
Did they know you were pregnant at all? Did you
No, I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody. And again, you probably, like, you couldn't see, but like in my mind, I don't know. I feel like, you know, when you're like pregnant with your first, you're just like, sure, like everyone knows. Like nobody knows.
Right.
You know, but in my head, I was like, it was so monumental.
Oh my gosh, what a great scene for like your kid to watch. Like, look, you were in that scene too.
Yes, it was your screen debut. So funny.
Oh my God, I love that. And then you were also talking about, I really love that line that you had in the other episode with, it was like the town hall, the Are You Better Off situation.
Yes.
Oh my God. First of all, that was just a huge episode in general. Yeah. I have two questions on that. First of all was the actual town council part, the line of somehow her convincing the school board that napkins were vegetable because they're made of plants.
Oh, that was my improv, actually, the made of plants part.
What?
Yes, I think that was my improv. That was my one improv. Oh my God, I hope I'm not wrong. See, this is the problem with like, I have foggy memories like mom brain, but I'm pretty sure, because I remember being like, it's me.
Yay! Well, and I feel like a lot of times, it could be a little bit of both. Like, you know, sometimes they'll do that fun run and then they'll be like, oh, I like that. Do that again.
Right.
Like that.
And it'll become a hybrid, you know?
Yes. Oh my God. Well,
I hope I'm correct in that. Now I have to go back and look at the scripts.
I'm just going to say, for the lore of parks, it was you.
Yeah, let's just say that I'm a genius writer and nobody else thought of anything.
I mean, listen, Harris Whittles and pretty much, I don't know, just a lot of other great writers have wonderful lines to their name. So the plants thing can be yours.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. They're so smart.
But that same episode is the like not carnival, like parade is what I'm trying to say, with the Harris Whittles and Colton.
That was a huge episode. That was the same episode?
Yes. Crazy. Like they are starting, or maybe it was either the same episode or like a couple episodes after.
It was like a two-parter,
it was very close together.
No.
Yeah, it was very close together. But
else. Yeah.
But either way, so was that in Pasadena, like where the city hall for Pawnee, do you remember if that was? Okay.
Yeah, it was Pasadena.
So it was right there.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And did you have any sort of like rehearsal as far as how the trailer thing was going to move? Do you remember? Or like standing on top of that? I mean, what was that like?
Yeah, I think we had like a rehearsal, you know?
Yeah.
Where we yeah.
I can't imagine all those amazing people just like being behind you, first of all, but secondly, all of the incredible extras that they had to have for that scene too.
Yeah, that was a big day. It was a big day.
Oh my God.
I haven't been involved in anything that big since, I think. Everything else I've done has been pretty small.
Smaller.
Yeah. It was cool. It was a cool day.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like what's so wild to me too is like, how does it feel for you, Mary, to be the person for such Parks and Rec like fans that wants to recall Leslie after she's worked so hard for this? Like thinking about it now, is there anything that comes to your mind when you think about it?
Insofar as like, I'm sorry, I'm not following. Like,
No, I'm just curious, like, what you think about being the person that, wants to recall Leslie.
oh, I loved it. I mean, to be the like number one villain for an episode, or yeah,
Totally.
yeah, it was great.
Do you still did you get to keep that shirt? Like, you were wearing a red shirt that said Recall Nope. I really hope that somebody got.
Wouldn't that be nice? No, I didn't keep it.
Ugh. I also love that little statue that they have in the back, like where she's wagging her finger or whatnot.
That was so ridiculous.
Oh my God.
So fun.
So good. I love that. Oh my God. And did you get to like stay friends or chat with anybody like kind of in between scenes and stuff? Or was it more of like, everybody's really great here and obviously, but sometimes it's hard to stay in touch?
I didn't really stay in touch with many people. I mean, like I'm still Facebook friends with a couple people that I met, like Todd Sherry. I can't remember what.
Oh yeah.
He's so lovely. We're Facebook friends and I see him occasionally, but I haven't really kept in touch with people.
Yeah. We got to talk to Todd when we did the sex education episode where he sings the abstinence rap, and he was so nice and sang the abstinence rap for us, and I was like, oh my God, this is gold.
I love it. He's so good. He was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so folks like him I got to chat with, and it was a very friendly set. So yeah, I chatted with everybody. There was no one who was like standoffish,
Yeah. And I mean, I guess I'm curious as far as like, I know I asked this in the particular for the Soda Tax episode because that was your first episode, but I am curious if you got, because I know you worked with a couple different directors, so I'm wondering if there was any sort of like notes or things that you felt like they gave you direction on, or was it more of like, I pretty much know who this woman is, I know the lines now, we're good kind of vibe? Like, how was that?
I don't recall a lot of direction. I mean,
Yeah.
The thing about when you're a guest star is like, or a co-star, like just in my experience,
Mm-hmm.
you're being thrown into this world that's already existed for a long time. And it's like a well-oiled machine. And so most of the time it's a good thing if you don't get direction, because that means like, you're not, slowing anything down. So
Totally.
I don't recall getting a lot of direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, I think that is a good thing, or like, and sometimes, I mean, one of my favorite things that from this show in particular that I've been finding I'm kind of obsessed with is the script to screen situation, because some things are so different in the script, or like even just a subtle change can make a huge difference, like when you actually see it on screen as an audience. So that's something that I'd like to ask, if especially about the improv, but also just like, did that not work? Because I know especially with like live audiences and stuff, like kind of network shows, it's they have script like joke pitchers, if you will. And I was curious if that ever, I mean, probably not for your character, I mean, maybe not, I don't know, but I was curious if you ever saw like a writer during that time come in and just say like, oh, that wasn't working, or like how the process being on set was. I know by this time it was kind of in a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. No one, like, in my experience, writers don't come up to the actors and say things aren't working. Like,
right.
I mean, I know that there's usually a couple of writers, at least on the set, that often I think do pitch fixes and jokes and things like that. So, but I don't have any memory of anyone talking to me directly. It usually goes through the proper channels, and from the director.
Right. Yeah, there was I can't remember who said it. I think it was one of the script supervisors was talking about Parks at Rec at one point, and he was saying, like, I think it was one of his first times being like the official writer of the episode, and like something happened on set and they were like, okay, somebody needs to come do this, and like his mentor at the time was like, that's you, like like that would be your choice, your job / like decision making.
Wait, who was that? Was that
I think it was Greg.
Greg Levine.
I want to
Yes. We went to college together.
No way.
Yes, we were in an improv troupe in college together. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Love that so much.
Yeah.
Where did you go to college?
We went to Brandeis. Brandeis University. It's right outside of Boston. And he actually only went for 1 year. Then I think he went to USC or UCLA. He moved back to California, but his freshman year,
so cool.
I think it was my senior year. And
what a small world.
Yeah, small world for sure.
Me and Maddie, my co-host, actually went to Berkeley College of Music in Boston.
Oh, cool.
So just outside of it. That's why I was like, Brandeis sounds familiar.
What'd you study at Berkeley?
I studied vocal performance.
Oh, cool. Like opera?
Maddie did. No, Berkeley's, well, at the time, it's now combined with BOCO, Boston Conservatory.
You went to BOCO? So you really are a
didn't
musical theater person. Oh,
I didn't go to BOCO.
Okay.
Berkeley's now combined with BOCO, but when I went to Berkeley, it was, and it still is, more contemporary. So it was like jazzy pop stuff. Obviously, we
cool.
had to do our arias and things like that. But yeah, it was really fun.
Oh, that's a good school.
Yeah, it was really fun. Maddie did music therapy, and she
cool.
still did that. And she plays violin. She's not a therapist right now, but she has been a therapist. And so that's kind of how we met, and then discovered our, love of Parks and Rec in The Office and all the things. So it was really exciting. But yeah, that's kind of why I was like, okay, I'm very intrigued about the career process too. So you were in Boston, and then did you go to New York or something after that for theater?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh,
after I graduated, I moved to New York, and because I really wanted to do musicals, and that was that's where you go. So yeah, I moved to New York, and I was there for like 10 years doing theater and mostly musicals.
That's what you studied in college too, right?
I got a BA. I got a BA in theater. So it wasn't like a conservatory kind of program, but yeah, I studied theater.
Gotcha. Okay, and then you were saying that Parks was one of your first jobs in LA. Did you move to LA specifically for TV film, or how'd that come about?
Yes. So after I finished my third Broadway show, that sounds so annoying. My third Broadway show.
No, I love it. Oh my God, stop.
That sounds so okay, but yeah.
No, it doesn't.
True.
It doesn't.
After I
to me,
finished
anyway.
this show called How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, I
love it.
I was like, okay, I really wanted to focus more on film and TV. And so, also I had met the man who's now my husband, and he's from LA. And I knew that, we might want to move out there at some point when we were ready to start a family and things like that. So it just made sense to make the leap. And yeah, I got so lucky that was one of my first jobs.
I feel like a lot of guest stars I've talked to, it was one of their first jobs. I think that they're really looking, well, Dorian Frankel, the casting director, has mentioned this too, like where they were looking for good people that they were kind of just fans of in general. You know what I mean? Like it didn't necessarily matter what you'd done before.
Yeah.
It was just like, did you relate to the material or whatever? But oh my God. Okay. Well, okay. Let's go back to New York. Tell me about the auditioning for Broadway and how that all happened. What was your first Broadway show, or whatever you want to say about your theater experience? But I am curious as far as like the audition process goes. Do you think it has changed a lot nowadays? Were you doing cattle calls? Like, tell me all that.
Well, I was doing cattle calls at first. Yeah. Like, when Backstage magazine was like still a hard copy, you could get, I would get that, and I would go to like, the big calls, get up at like, 5 a.m. and go stand outside on the sidewalk with 800 other people. And I did all that for like a good year or two. And then I got an agent through like a regional theater gig that I had done. And that's when I started to be able to stop getting up so early, and I had appointment times. So that was good.
Right.
But my first Broadway show was Avenue Q.
Yes.
And that was actually a long process. Like I think I auditioned 8 or 9 times over like a year and a half. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, it was.
And this was when Avenue Q was new, right? Like it hadn't come out yet, or was
Avenue
this
Q
like
had
a revival?
opened. I was the first replacement for Kate Monster and Lucy.
Oh.
So, but it had been out, and I like loved it when I saw it early on in its run, and was like, that's my show. Like I really, I was very single focused on learning how to puppeteer, and it just felt, it was just such the right show for me, and I was obsessed with it. And so, yeah. Oh, but yeah, I auditioned a few times. I mean, many times over the course of a year and a half or so.
Was that through your agent? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And were you doing any TV film in the middle of that, or were you mostly focused on the theater part of it?
Not in the. was mostly focused on theater, but not for any reason. I think at that time too, like there wasn't a ton shooting in New York. It wasn't until I want to say like there were like the Law and Orders. I auditioned for tons of Law and
Oh, of
Orders,
course.
but there weren't a lot of shows shooting. I think I did like a day on All My Children,
Okay,
but
cute.
no,
Like
I
that.
didn't really start. It wasn't until I had my Broadway debut that I had an agent that was able to get me in the rooms for that kind of thing more.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So where were your regional gigs that you were talking about?
Oh, I only did a few. Like I did a Christmas Carol at Virginia Stage Company. I grew up in Norfolk, Virginia, so like I actually had a personal connection to that theater, which I think helped getting cast.
Oh my God, I'm from the Fredericksburg area
Oh,
in
cool.
Virginia.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Look at us, Virginia
look at
people.
us.
Love that.
Yeah. Sorry, I
Yeah,
lost my
Virginia
train.
has some really good theaters. I feel like it's a much bigger state than people think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, since it is close to DC, there's also those options as well.
Yeah.
Well, Norfolk, not so much, but, it's close enough, I feel, that you could go audition if you wanted to, or,
Yeah.
have some sort of residency up there.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in high school, I was doing some auditions. Like Wilmington, North Carolina had just started to kind of blow up a little bit, and like they had Dawson's Creek there at the time. Now I'm really dating myself, but yeah, there's some stuff going on there for sure.
Yeah, totally. And then, so for the next shows that you were doing, were those all through your agent as well? Or was it like, we've seen you in Avenue Q, let's move you over here now? Like, what's that process like?
So that was sort of a combination of that. Like once you get into the scene, it's a very small community, the Broadway community, which is nice. And so it was a combination of like my people starting to know me and be familiar with my work. I did you do a lot of readings. I'm actually here in New York doing a reading of a new musical, which is kind of how you get in on the ground floor. So the next show that I did was American Idiot, and I auditioned for the original workshop, but getting involved in the beginning of that process is a really great thing to do when you're working in musicals and Broadway stuff.
Yeah, totally. And just see the process of it all. That makes total sense. Were you doing a lot of like dance classes as well? Like what's your relationship with dancing? Because I always think about that with musicals.
Honestly, I didn't take a ton of dance classes. I took some dance in high school. I would say I'm a strong mover. And so what would happen is like, I would, like, for example, when I did How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, that Rob Ashford directed and choreographed. And he's like a dancer. It was a very amazing dance heavy show. And so he would get his like best male dancers and have them make me look good. I could kind of fake it, but usually I was like paired with people who could make me look better than I actually am.
Sure.
I'm not like a dancer. I mean, the Broadway dancer community, they are beasts.
I mean,
they're incredible. I'm not that
insane.
talented. They're so good.
I just think about it all the time, like even with regional theaters here, the dancing is just insane.
Yeah.
And they're not only like, obviously you have your things that you feel more confident in, kind of thing, like I'm a singer who can like move vibe, or dancer who can sing or hold a tune or whatever, but I feel like Broadway, especially from what I've seen with the people, I mean, it's just like everything is on point. And maybe that's just from me as an audience perspective, but it feels so like you have to be an expert in all three of the things.
I mean, yeah, triple threat. You really do have to at least be able to move.
Right.
Unless
did you have dance calls? Like, did you go to the dance calls?
Only if forced. Like, only if required to. They still like give me anxiety just thinking about them. Because again, like if I had to go to a dance call to kind of just show them what I could do, I was inevitably surrounded by true Broadway dancer gypsy types, would
Yeah,
just like
totally.
dance circles around me, and I would kind of try to keep up, and I would hope that like just giving it a little bit of personality would carry me a little bit farther. But
Yeah, totally.
then
When
my
in doubt,
skills
give
alone.
face.
Exactly. When in doubt, give face.
Yeah, and I mean, Avenue Q, I guess, is a good example of that. I feel like you do have to move, but I feel like the puppeteering is and the choreography of movement is a little bit more prominent, I would say.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice.
Yeah, I definitely didn't. I wouldn't say that I was dancing in that show, but certainly,
Yeah,
it's a very, very highly choreographed show with
totally.
the puppets and everything. Everything had to be very precise.
I mean, how, like, did you guys have actual rehearsal? Now I'm just curious, honestly,
Mhm.
about everything. But did you guys have rehearsals as far as moving the puppet and, because that's a whole other
I mean,
portion
yeah,
of that show.
there like there's a dance captain on typical Broadway shows. Actually, I think there was a dance captain on Avenue Q, but there's also a puppet captain on Avenue Q. So who,
Oh.
so if you get far enough along in the process, I want to say it's like 3 or 4 callbacks, then what they do is they send you to what they call puppet camp, which is like a few days of just learning the basics of puppeteering.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and that was early on, and I had so much time like between that puppet camp and like when I actually got cast. I was able to practice as the year went
Yeah.
on, but then
Puppet
once you get
camp
the
sounds
show,
so
they train
fun.
you. It was really fun. Yeah.
Well, and is Kate Monster one of the people that that she has to double anyone else, like secondhand, or
She
or is
doubles.
she?
She plays Lucy the Slut too. So that track
Oh,
is Lucy the Slut.
okay.
So sometimes like I'd have to like Jen Barnhart, who was like the second hander, and she would also like sometimes take Lucy, and I would like have Kate and like voice Lucy, and Barnhart would like operate her.
Yeah.
You know.
Because I remember, I mean, I did that show in college, and I remember I was one of the Bad Idea Bears, super fun.
Oh, cute.
But then you also have to be like the second hand for
Trekkie.
somebody.
Trekkie Monster.
Yeah.
And
so that was really
Mickey,
interesting.
Yeah.
To like not take away from what Trekkie was doing, and I thought that was a whole like other realm of acting.
Oh, absolutely! It is such a skill, and Jen Barnhart is like incredible. The way that they just moved together as a unit, and she was there for so long that she worked with so many. She started with Rick Lyon, who was like just this incredible puppeteer and builder and all that, and she knew him. She had known him for a very long time, but she still was able to bring that to every partner that was thrown her way. Like she's just a incredible puppeteer.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Do you still talk to any of your cast members from any of the Broadway shows that you did?
Yeah.
That's
That
awesome.
community, I'm definitely, I stay more in touch with them. It's always nice when I get to come back to New York and reconnect, like,
totally
seeing friends from American Idiot, and there are definitely, the community is just so tight, and you really get to see them over the years, and it's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How long were each of your runs? I mean, because being on Broadway is just like, people equate it to being an Olympic athlete, which I completely think is true.
Yeah.
As far as like the sleep schedule, making sure you're on top of your physical health, like it's nuts. So
it's
I'm curious how long you stayed on there. Was it 8 shows a week too?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just the normal thing.
It was intense. I did Avenue Q for 2 years. I did American Idiot.
That's a long time.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I did American Idiot on Broadway for a year, but I had also done like the pre-Broadway tryout for a few months in Berkeley and things like that. And then I did How to Succeed for a year as well. So I don't think I could do longer than a year now.
Yeah, that's intense.
It's intense.
That's really intense.
It's intense.
Have you ever been an understudy / had to go on for?
I have been an understudy, but I've never gone on. My only understudy experience was, when NBC used to do the like live musicals.
Yeah.
So they did Hairspray live, and I was cast as the rehearsal understudy for Kristen Chenoweth and Rosie O'Donnell and Andrea Martin, because they couldn't always be, like the fancier people, they would just kind of like come in the last few days, but they needed someone who could play the role in rehearsal. So that's what I got to do. That's my understudy experience there.
It terrifies me.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
I
can't
knew
imagine.
that I was never going to have, I knew that like, that was actually a relief because I was like, I will never go on. If
like, I'm not going to have to do anything.
yeah, like if Kristen Chenoweth like
day.
can't do the show, like they're not going to put me in. You know what I mean? They're going to get some, I don't know, probably someone who's done the role before or something like that.
Oh my God.
But
I love
luckily
that.
I didn't have to worry about that, but yeah.
Do you have like, I mean, I don't know how to phrase this. I guess I'm just curious on like what your audition process is for theater versus film, or if there's any sort of technique or tips that you have for the audition process, especially for musical theater.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious on that front.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, it used to be very different in the before times when we all went in person for everything, both film and TV and musical theater.
Mm-hmm.
I would say now the self-tape experience is a real bummer, and it's like I'm sorry, I'm kind of losing my. I don't know if I'm going to answer your question quite.
No, say whatever you're feeling, and I'll fill in the blanks.
Well, it's funny. I haven't had a ton of auditions for musicals, but the ones that I have recently, because it's again, like during the pandemic, it was all just like self tapes and stuff, and usually now, like it's even in musicals, it's a first round self-tape situation, and then they'll call you in person.
Okay.
If you get a callback or something. So
interesting.
But I actually really prefer in person for both on camera and theater, but like especially theater because it's so hard to.
You are going to be in person.
Yeah, you've got to have a full, embodiment, physical embodiment of this character. It's not just like a tight frame and don't move your eyebrows. You really have to like have a presence physically. So
I know I've been trying when they do give an option for self tapes, because I do TV film if I like auditions here, commercials, things like that. Because Atlanta is pretty close, but they're also shooting a lot in Charlotte and occasional things in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
But they're now offering a little bit more Zoom callbacks or Zoom initial auditions too.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to just say yes to those because the Southeast has always been self-tape heavy. Like very rarely I'd say, I mean, except for maybe if you live in Atlanta, like next to the casting director kind of vibe, like you can go in. But the Southeast, if you're in anywhere but Atlanta, I feel is very self-tape, has always been. Like when the pandemic happened, we were like, okay, we know we have our setup kind of already. But obviously things change anyway. But yeah, it was like nerve-wracking. I did a first Zoom audition like a couple weeks ago for a commercial, and it was like literally one line, or maybe it was for a TV show. I don't know, whatever. Anyways, I did it, and I was like, oh my God, this takes so much more practice. I just felt so out of like just rusty, or like icky almost going into like after I was done.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I did it because like you know this, like you just anyone knows this, even if they're not an actor, you do make a connection with people. Even if you don't book it, it's like you do make that, like, that's what we're all doing this for, is to have a connection with somebody.
Yeah.
And so self-taping and sending it into, Actors Access or whatever casting site you're on, it's just like, okay, I hope they saw it.
I know. It can be so lonely. I miss, like, going into the rooms, into rooms with people, even, like, big, commercial auditions. Like,
yeah.
I miss the social aspect of it, and I miss, like, the kind of insider knowledge trading too.
Totally.
That you just don't get as much anymore since we're never, in a room with our fellow actors unless we booked it.
Right. And that's kind of the thing too. It's like, I get it if you, if it's for a small call and then you don't have to drive all the way to Santa Monica if you're in LA. Like, I get that part. Because obviously that sucks.
That is a drive.
Yeah. But it is nice when you can kind of have that energy of being around someone in person. So, but I guess also then, I mean, my next curiosity is really about like how you're balancing the theater versus TV film. Like, is it kind of just whatever comes up? Because I know you also do voiceover too, which I love.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious, is there one thing that you're more like not focused on, but just more interested in, or is it kind of just whatever floats your boat at that time? Or
it's kind of like wherever I can get the work. You really.
I mean, I was kind of thinking
you have to go where the work is, and I'm lucky that I can kind of hop between them all. I love doing voiceover. Like that's really fun. But right now I especially doing Next to Normal this past summer, you know, I hadn't been on stage since 2011. Like it had been
Oh,
forever. And
wow.
I really like lit a fire in me again. And so I'm focusing more on trying to get back into the theater scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it kind of just comes in waves for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Phases.
Yeah.
And I'm so
Is there
fortunate that I have eras in my career.
Yeah, totally. I mean, is there something that you like more than the other or not so much?
No, I think I like theater the most. I think because I just love that communal aspect, and I love music and I love singing, and
Yeah.
you know, I get to use more of my superpowers in
that's
musicals.
fair. That's totally true. I love that. It's definitely more, and especially getting audience interaction, I think is just such a different energy atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a whole other thing too.
Yeah.
It's like, I thought I did really great. And then the audience hated it. Or you thought you sucked. And the audience was like, that was so good.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
I know. You never know.
Everyone just perceives it differently, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So for this workshop, are you going to be there for a while until they have things kind of under wraps, or how's
we have 2 presentations for like industry people. It's a developmental reading. So we'll do that Thursday and Friday, and then I'm going back to LA. So
nice.
Yeah.
Do workshops work similarly as far as like through your agent, or is that like people are asking you to do those?
It depends. But in this case, this was a friend, you know, is producing and my
nice.
So I was like, what you got?
Yeah,
and I was
totally.
like, anything I can jump in on. And so
yeah, I feel like theater definitely has, I'm sure, I mean, I know TV film does too, especially in the comedy world, but I definitely think theater is like, if I've worked with you before, if I've seen you before, I'll definitely be bringing you onto whatever you fit in to next time, you know?
Yeah, relationship building is strong.
Yeah, totally. Well, are you auditioning for any TV films still?
Yeah, when it comes along for sure, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. It's been, as you know, a weird time in the industry.
We're still trying to get our feet back, I think, a little bit.
So whenever it comes my way, I'm happy.
Yeah, totally. Well, is there anything that you'd like to promote as far as like things we can watch out for, social media, anything like that?
Oh goodness, no. I mean, I sporadically post on Instagram, so you can find me at Mary B. Faber there. But
okay.
You know, it's mostly just pictures of my kids and some old theater stuff. Yeah, but no, so far I'm just sort of waiting to see what comes next. So
okay, well, keep me posted
if
anything else, like, you know, that you want us to post about or talk about or whatever. If there's any other questions that fans have, I might reach out to you if you're okay with that. Obviously, I won't bombard you.
No, I love that.
And I was going to ask, speaking of fans, though, do you ever get recognized for being Kathryn Pinewood?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Usually.
Like only in LA or New York or just everywhere?
Everywhere. But not in the way that they'll see me on the street and come up to me. It's usually like, for example, when I was doing the show this summer, like it's one of those things where I don't think it's like, I don't know, I guess I look different. That was so many years ago. But once people like read my bio, or, you know, like there were a couple people on the crew who like, they'll do the like sneak up and they'll be like, I'm sorry, but like, I'm a huge Parks and Rec fan. You know, the super nerds for Parks and Rec always, like, you know, figure it out pretty quickly. They're like, oh my God, Kathryn Pinewood.
Did you do stage door in Houston? Like, did you like go talk to people afterwards or?
No, not really.
Okay, I was gonna say, because if I had a stage door, I would have definitely come up to you and be like, hey,
right? But I love it. I mean, that's people know Kathryn Pinewood. I mean, that's probably the character that I get the most recognition for. Okay,
here's my last random question. Mm-hmm. It's about warming up for theater. Mm-hmm. I am very curious. Do you have like a thing you do? This could be for TV film too, but do you have a thing you do, you know, before you go on stage, before, like, a lot of people have their time when they want zen, when they want to warm up their voice or anything like that? Like, I'm curious what your before moment is, if you have one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you're doing like a long running show, I mean, it's truly like your whole day is about prepping. So I make sure
Mm.
that I always do a vocal warm up. I'll try to get, stretching in and like a physical warm up as well.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the show. And
Yeah.
but yeah, always the vocal warm up. That's like
Okay.
I always have to do that. It just gets me into a headspace too. I don't have any rituals. I guess that's my ritual is
Gotcha.
the warm
Do
up.
you ever do like vocal rest or anything like that? Like these insane people do where they're
Oh
like,
yeah,
I'm
I
not
mean
talking today.
if I'm feeling under, yeah,
Oh, yeah,
because
that's
it's
fair
just
too.
like it's a muscle. You have to rest it. If you injure it, it is,
Crazy.
yeah. And if you have
Oh my
like a
gosh.
really intense show, like next to normal, you really have to
Yeah,
conserve your vocal energy.
that's true. And I mean, I guess this is for anything, but especially with theater, when you're so just involved with it, I feel as though you almost need something to kind of bring you out of it after the show. But sometimes it's just really hard to do that. And
Yeah.
so I don't really know. I guess that would obviously be an experience for when I go through it. I haven't had to play that intense of a mental role. I mean, I have it one time, but it wasn't, I don't know. I don't feel like it was as intense, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's probably a hard balance to come out of sometimes.
Yeah. I think that would be a really hard show to do a long run for because it's just
Yeah.
so emotionally and physically taxing.
Yeah. I'm sure people come up with some sort of way to get out of it, but I mean, I think about what's his name. What was it? I think it was either Matthew McConaughey or Joaquin Phoenix or whatever.
Joaquin Phoenix?
They always, yeah, where they always talk about how like intense mentally, but also physically it was to do Joker and things like
Oof,
that. And
yeah.
or like what's the other one Matthew McConaughey did? Dallas Buyers Club.
Mm,
That seems so intense.
yeah. Yeah.
So
Just to get to
anyways.
that place, the state of mind that you need to maintain, especially like in between takes and everything to like try and stay in character, at least in theater, like curtain up, curtain down. There's no pauses. Whereas when you're doing an
Right.
intense movie or television show, it's like you really have to, every actor has to find ways to stay in it. And
Yeah.
they're
Well, I'm proud
masters.
of you for doing everything and having kids and
Thank
just
you.
like being so great. And thank you so much for
It's so
taking
nice
the
to
time to talk
chat.
to me.
Thank you. Thank you for
This is
having
so
me.
fun. Oh my God, of course. Thank you again for answering all my questions. Break a leg and all of your future things that you're doing. And for when does this workshop go up? For your
It's
presentations.
just the next couple of days, so
Okay.
be done pretty soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have so much fun.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Yes,
and
I'd love
thank you
that.
again so much. I appreciate this.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Okay, have a good day. Bye.
Take care.
There's a park and some pals, and there's also therapy too.